All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Chris Bonamy. I am the Deputy Director for the DuPage County Stormwater Management Department, and we are here for a water quality outreach webinar where our director, Sarah Hunn, will discuss what stormwater management is doing with their allocation of the nearly $180 million in funding that DuPage County received from the federal ARPA program. This is a free webinar, and one PDH, one professional development hour, will be made available for your participation. We have several of these webinars throughout the year. We find that these webinars and workshops are a great way to connect like-minded organizations and individuals who are concerned with the water quality in our lakes, rivers, and streams surrounding DuPage County. These workshops and webinars are part of our public outreach and education programs and help us meet requirements outlined in our permit with the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. The webinar is being recorded, so if you know of others that can't be with us today and might benefit from this information, we will provide a link to the recorded presentation shortly following the webinar. Just a quick couple thank yous. Thank you to Raul Galvin and Mary Beth Falsey for organizing this webinar and getting our speaker for today. I do want to point out Raul Galvin is our new Stormwater Outreach Coordinator, and so you'll be seeing some correspondence from him for these webinars moving forward. I'd also like to thank our speaker, Sarah Hunn. She, again, is the Director of the DuPage County Stormwater Management Department. And once again, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. Now, just a quick reminder, I do want to point out that it is Mother's Day on Sunday. Happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers in attendance this afternoon. We all know that mothers are very special people and they don't get appreciated nearly enough. My wife and I have 4 kids, and I know there are a lot of different parenting philosophies out there, but my wife believes that if you aren't yelling and screaming at your kids, you probably aren't spending enough time with them. I can also remember when the kids were a lot younger, and I would come home from work and I would realize immediately opening the door that it was a tough day for my wife because the house was a disaster. My wife was still in her pajamas and there was a big bottle of Advil on the counter. But she survived. She always made it through it because she explicitly followed the directions on the back of that bottle. Take 2 tablets and keep away from children. Specifically, keep away from children. All right, happy Mother's Day, everybody. If you are a mother. Now, before I turn things over to Sarah, I do want to remind everyone that you're muted. If you do have comments or questions during the presentation, please type those directly into the chat box and we will relay those on to Sarah at the end of her presentation. Let me introduce Sarah Hunn. Sarah received her Bachelor of Sciences degree in Civil Engineering from Michigan Tech University in 2002. She began her career at the Illinois Department of Transportation and has worked for DuPage County for the past 18 years, currently serving as Director of the Stormwater Management Department. In this role, Sarah leads nearly 40 staff members, oversees the operation of 17 flood control facilities, and manages flood control and water quality projects countywide. During her time at DuPage County, Sarah has overseen the construction and modification of 8 of the county's 17 flood control facilities and managed nearly $50 million in grant funds for capital projects, including the Armstrong Park Reservoir, Churchill Woods Dam removal, Urban Stream Research Center, the Brewster Creek Headwaters Flood Control Project, and several flood control restoration projects along the west branch of the DuPage River. She is also an advocate for local humane societies, devoting time and effort to place risk animals in homes, in addition to housing multiple shelter animals herself. Sarah is also a triathlete, a golfer, and an avid snowboarder. So very good. Sarah, welcome. Thank you for being here. Gavin, Raul, I'd say let's turn things over to Sarah so she can start her presentation.
Thank you, Christopher. That was incredibly formal from 2 offices down. Okay, let's get after it. Let me get this going. And again, thank you, Christopher. And as he mentioned, for those of you who don't know, I am Sarah Hunn, Director for DuPage County Stormwater Management. I think I recognized all of the names on this, so I won't go too much into some of the beginning stuff. I know most people are familiar with me and familiar with our program. Although I have typed this out as municipal grant successes, we're going to talk about a few things, specifically ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, and what we're both doing internally and with our municipal grants, as well as some of our plans going forward. So our program, which a lot of people are pretty familiar with, the DuPage County Stormwater Management Department, really started in 1989 as a result of the '87 flood. With the beginning of our department, we didn't have all 6 of the program areas noted below. The beginning of our department in 1989, we really focused on our watershed management and watershed planning. We started with the development and implementation of the Lower Salt Creek Watershed Plan. And then with that, we constructed several of the facilities over on Salt Creek as a result of the implementation and approval of that plan. And so in the beginning, in the inception of the department, we were heavy into watershed management, and then moved into obviously operations and maintenance of our program. In 1992, with the adoption of the Stormwater Management and Floodplain Ordinance, our regulatory services really became prevalent, and all of our groups together basically all combine forces anytime we have a flood to manage the operations of our flood control facilities, which we are now able to divert or reduce the riverine capacity by nearly 6 billion gallons countywide. And so that's just kind of the overview of the department. A lot of this is going to talk again about our watershed management group and how they've kind of teed us off for success with our ARPA program. And so the ARPA funding, as some of you may know, it could be an update for those who have been in or heard these presentations in the past. And for those who are looking to learn something new, we're going to go over our full program and what we're doing with our 22 million allocation of ARPA funds. That's what the Stormwater Management Department asked for. The county as a whole received 180 million, which was given in 2 allotments, 90 million each roughly. And all of the agencies and departments were basically queued up to ask for what they could use and implement out of the ARPA program. And with that, I would say our department was teed up well for our funds. And I'm going to talk through how we came up with the ask for 22 million and how we're doing on the spending of that. Obviously looking at the priority of our department, which is flood control and water quality, which were both not only deemed as eligible expenses, but priority expenses listed in the original ARPA overview. Our watershed management group, when we don't have a flood going on, is working in the communities, working in each watershed or tributary watershed, and developing watershed plans. This is also true of our water quality group. And those plans and projects are usually once a year put forward in our capital projects booklet that our department puts out. We pull out all of our sound and reasonable projects that we find cost beneficial and put them together in a booklet, essentially to revert back to if we find of a funding opportunity. Sometimes FEMA, HUD, or other agencies have funding opportunities, and depending on the area and the type of project, we can usually pull a project quick out of this book. When we heard about the ARPA funding available, we went back to our capital projects book and looked at what we could do for a project that met the ARPA criteria. What we needed to do as part of the ARPA guidelines is meet the criteria set forward in the EPA State Revolving Loan Fund, which has this unique little thing on the bottom that says stormwater projects qualify. So most of our projects do qualify. Specifically, flood-prone property buyouts not associated with a project did not qualify. And so that was the one type of funding that we sometimes get that didn't qualify specifically with this funding. In addition to that, we were given obligation and spending guidelines of when we had to spend the funds by, the final dollar spent and all things done, and when all the funds had to be obligated by. And this is the county as a whole, not just the department. We obviously want to be ahead of that because things happen. And so we are trying to get all of our funds obligated by 2024. The map on your right is a map of all of the projects we had in our capital funding book. And then we kind of sorted these projects out. You can see the different colors. We have red are flood control projects, green are water quality projects, and blue are stream stabilization projects. Now, obviously, stream stabilization projects fit into both criteria, but we wanted to note those out as they are a little more time intensive when we do those projects. We sorted through and sifted through all of those projects and came up with a list of what we thought we could realistically manage in-house and what we could get designed, constructed, designed, permitted, and constructed in the time frame noted below. In addition to that, we also wanted to work with our municipalities. Every municipality in DuPage County had the opportunity to qualify for ARPA funding as well. And we wanted to work with the municipalities to put that ARPA funding to good use with stormwater projects by cost sharing with them. And finally, the townships, which didn't necessarily have their own standalone ARPA funds, had a need for some stormwater projects as well. And so we also wanted to work with our townships in DuPage County, our 9 townships, to look at what projects they could use assistance with. And so I'm going to walk us through some of this stuff, but first I'm going to show you some of the successes that we've been able to have with our county-owned projects. Our county projects, we carved out roughly $10 million of internal regional capital projects of what we could do at the county. And to date, as of today specifically, 3 of those projects have been substantially completed. Here is a look of our first project that was completed, a conveyance project up in unincorporated Elmhurst, we call in the Country Club Highlands neighborhood. This project, as I just mentioned, was a conveyance project, largely a piping project that took the water off the roadways and out of the properties and homes and got it in a pipe system and to the creek. Some of the unique measures of this is that we did also implement some water quality initiatives with this project. And a huge success of this project is not only getting the water out of the homes, but as mentioned, getting some of the water down off the roads. So there was access to emergency facilities within this neighborhood. There was an area of the roadway which flooded deeply enough that some emergency vehicles could not get through, and homeowners could not exit the neighborhood in times of deep flooding as well. And so we wanted to make sure that this project, which we had done a design and first a feasibility study and a design for in the late 2020s or in the late 20-teens, I think it was 2018, it was first proposed. So this was our first project that was shovel ready, and we were able to get it ready for bid and get it constructed in 2022. And so that was our first big win, so to speak, for ARPA funding as far as the county's stormwater allotment. Our next 2 projects, both which have reached substantial completion today. They did not know I had this presentation to do it in time for this presentation, but really had some good luck with the weather. On your left-hand side is what we call the Smith and Cambridge flood conveyance project. It's an unincorporated West Chicago. This project is a major pipe system, but also includes several water quality features in that the project outlets into an area of the Forest Preserve, which we've worked with the Forest Preserve District to enhance and restore. And in addition to that, there's also a conveyance path over top of the pipe in the ditch system that has BMPs incorporated to it to also provide that water quality function from the roadway, directly from the roadway runoff. And so again, this project, which was a $2 million project, is completed today. I think the last driveway was just paved today. So we were able to have another feather in our cap from this project. And on the right-hand side, is what I'll call the other side of our department, not our large regional project, but our smaller drainage project. Our drainage group and our drainage projects are designed to assist the unincorporated areas of DuPage County that essentially don't have a larger municipality to help them with their stormwater issues. In general, to qualify for a drainage project, it has to improve the drainage system on over 2 properties. And in addition to that, it has to also remove water from the structures. And so this project qualified for our drainage program. And what this project does is provide, again, a conveyance path through the rear yards heading to what was an unattainable drainage area at the downstream end where there was a vegetated pond built previously. And so we provided pipe conveyance and then also overland flow in a BMP at the end of the pipe to allow for that treatment of that pipe water that was conveyed. And so again, another fantastic project that we were able to get completed, chugging away at getting the stormwater infrastructure in the ground. That's what we've been doing at the county. We have 4 more projects that we hope to bid and complete in the next year, with some federal environmental regulations that were set forth in the last few months. We had to kind of realign our schedules for getting projects done, which has helped us kind of go back to the drawing board and work more on our municipal projects and get our projects to the next step for bid, to be bid and let this winter. And so moving on from our own internal projects, I want to talk about our stormwater management grants. We have 2 types of municipal grants I'm going to talk about today. And quite honestly, the Water Quality Improvement Grant Program doesn't just fall in the municipal grant program, it falls into the Anything Grant Program, but I'll expand upon that toward the end of the presentation. Our ARPA Municipal Grant Program, when we pitched it to the committee, we pitched it for $8 million, not having any idea what we were going to end up with. And I think we've had a pretty successful round of applicants, and we'll go into a deep dive of that in a few minutes. And then our township program, we allotted for approximately $1 million, which was just over $100,000 for each township if every township applied. We've had good success in both of those projects. We've had, through both the township and the municipalities, projects go into the ground already. And every little bit helps. As everyone on this call knows, stormwater doesn't know municipal boundaries. And so why not try to get as much out there in overall funding as we possibly can? And so our pitch that we put together and presented to the committee was that we wanted to allocate $8 million for this program. And in that $8 million, we would look at a 50-50 cost share for projects under $1 million, or up to $500,000 per project for projects at or over $1 million. We also wanted to look at shovel-ready projects because we did want these funds spent by December 2024. And we also wanted to make sure that all the projects met the ARPA spending criteria. When we proposed this, again, in mid 2021, we looked at the feasibility of getting all of this ready and when we could have the grant out. And we were able to get it out in February 2022 for a 60-day proposal time application period. And I'd like to take credit for everything that we put together. But as we were preparing for this program and speaking to some of our peers, both municipal and private, it was brought to our attention that there are quite a few agencies that do grant programs. And why should we start from the beginning when there's already grant programs out there that we could essentially mimic? And many of our communities and the consultants that represent those communities would know what they were shooting for. And so we did do that. And I know I mentioned it later in my presentation, but I would like to always say thank you to Lake County SMC. I work with Kurt a lot and we share a lot of ideas. And I reached out to Kurt, and he and Sharon sent their grant application information to us that they were working on with their DCEO funds. And that was very similar to what we ended up putting out for our municipal grant funds. In addition to all of the parameters mentioned above, we also wanted to take into account bonus considerations. We wanted to look at resilient projects that fall within environmental justice areas, and projects that provide access to or protection to critical infrastructure. We'll go into that when we look at the actual application on the next slide. We needed to come up with our application development, again, stealing ideas from our neighbors to the north and any other areas. And we also worked with our IT department to create basically what we'll call a virtual funding packet. It was pretty easy once we figured out what we were doing, and once we put together the grant packet that met the project compliance criteria and came up with a grading scale. Going forward with that, it was just making sure we followed all the processes, included everything, and then got it all out there and did the outreach that we needed to do to let everyone know that this funding was indeed available. So speaking of outreach, we put together this whole process hand in hand with DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference. DuPage County Stormwater Management is equally, the planning committee is equally overseen by county board and municipal members, one of each representing from each county board district. So it was important to us as we work with mayors and managers on with our municipal members to reach out to DuPage mayors and managers and work with them on what we needed to do for this ARPA funding opportunity. In addition to that, we worked with them on making the announcement of the funding opportunity. Chairman Zay and I sent letters to all of the municipalities within DuPage County. And we also presented this grant funding opportunity at our municipal engineering group. So making sure that all of the communities were covered, all the way from the elected officials to the staff that would be administering and processing and applying for the grant, making sure everybody knew what was going on was hugely important to us, because having a program where we essentially begged for funds for and no one applied could have been disastrous for us. And so we thought that outreach was hugely important, and we definitely believe it was a success. I do want to share what we put together for a grant application packet and how we scored it. We actually put our scoring criteria right into the packet. We thought this was very important, so everybody knew what target they were trying to hit, and showing everybody what was the most important to us. Again, I want to note that we did allow bonus credit for projects within environmental justice areas. And we use the term environmental justice, which is a term utilized by EPA. And since we had to meet the criteria for the state revolving loan fund, we thought we should utilize the EPA's language as well. I think every different entity at the federal level has a different term for it, but the environmental justice areas are roughly defined as areas of disadvantaged population. And so we did want to allow bonus credit for that. And within our own program, we looked at projects that fell within this area as well. Again, as mentioned, access and opportunity and protection of critical facilities, making sure fire, police, and hospitals had opportunity to access and protect was important to us. And of course, when you look at our highest rated scoring criteria, obviously flood control benefits as well as water quality, always wanting to make sure we're providing those benefits within our stormwater program, because of course that was the #1 criteria we wanted to hit with this application. So we had everything we wanted to do, and to create that virtual funding application, or that virtual funding application, we worked with our IT department. When we first came up with this, we thought this was going to be a daunting task. Had submitted this to our IT department, and they quickly grabbed onto this and developed a quite easy way to go through the process. They utilized an online application system, which used form stack technology, which allowed for file uploads. It correlated exactly with the grant funding packet. It was a fillable online form that had all the sections that were important to us: the application process, the applicant and the consultant, so we knew who to get a hold of, the relevant project information, the financial information, obviously the benefits of the project, so we could score and measure those metrics, and any attachments. You can see here, this is the actual printout as you would for the application. And if attachments were larger than 25 megs, we also had a single point of contact that the applicant could reach out to and get that information to us. This packet was downloadable, so you could work on it, get it all done, and then go into the system and fill it out. From the different grants that we've worked with, we thought that this is what made common sense to move forward with and kind of get into the system. We thought about doing just one uploadable packet, but then this was easier to reduce and eliminate mistakes or re-uploads. And so having one central packet that was submittable, and actually the way IT set it up is that it transmitted directly into our file system so we could move forward with our grading. And another thing that was important to us and made it fair for everybody is having one set of frequently asked questions that we published weekly with our program. This is actually, again, straight out of our frequently asked questions. We publish them every Friday. We had a single point of contact that all of the grantees had to reach out to for our frequently asked questions. And with that, we would take them all in and answer them as quickly as we could to get them published every Friday by 3 p.m. We wanted to make sure that every community participating was getting equal information for what they needed to know as part of this grant. As you saw, the grant application was open from February to April. Most of us that are on this call, me included, are at a large floodplain conference that falls right into that time, and knew that we needed to basically not give extra information to those who are allowed to travel to that conference that other people who weren't allowed to travel to that conference wouldn't have had an opportunity to get. So as a staff, we developed a policy that we would not talk about the ARPA program, except for it's available online, the basics that was sent out, public information that was put out about it, but the inside scoop of the ARPA program, who was doing the grading and stuff like that, we decided as a team we would not talk about. We would put, basically mum was the word. And even though we had to see everybody, we would basically say, you have to go online and go through the process and submit through there. So it was a little awkward in some of the conversations we had at that conference, but I think this was the best and fairest route to go through for our department. So our applications, the results came in. We received 31 applications through our process from 18 of the municipalities in the county. So over 50% of the municipalities applied, which was fantastic. The total requests were for $9.6 million from the department or from the ARPA funds from the county. As you recall, our allocation that we were approved for was $8 million. And so we did have to make some cuts, but if we would have been able to approve the full 9.6 million, we would have seen an extra $50 million in stormwater infrastructure go into the county. I believe with what we, well, I'll tell that in the next slide. We set up our staff review team, and we wanted to make sure that our staff review team was a diverse group. We didn't just want engineers doing the rewiew or ecologists doing the review. We made sure we had our water quality staff, our ecology staff, and our wetland staff, as well as our engineering group, all part of the review team to make sure that we had well-rounded grading of the packets. One of the big things that was important to us, and is still important to us today, is that these projects are considered shovel-ready. We do have that deadline that we need to make sure is adhered by for the grants, and so we want to make sure that the projects were shovel ready. before we started this whole process and working with mayors and managers, one of our criteria that the committee and the county board set forward is that we needed to make sure we were distributing these projects throughout the county board district. While we've seen a lot of need for different stormwater projects on different types of stormwater projects on the west side of the county, we've also seen aging infrastructure on the east side of the county, as well as through the center of the county. And so it definitely was important to make sure we looked throughout the entire county at qualifying projects. Staff did all of their grading and made recommendations to the Stormwater Committee based on the available funds. We were able to select, and you can see the map on your right is the locations of all of the projects that we put forward. We were able to select 26 projects from 17 of the municipalities. Now, I will say the 18th municipality, their project did not qualify for ARPA funding, but we do have a different program within our department that their project does qualify for. And so we do hope to work with that municipality to get that project funded and have a success there as well. The total allocation of these 26 projects was just over $8 million. So we did have to go back and ask the committee to allocate $90,000 from a different pot of money to this program within our department. Committee approved all the selections, and we have moved forward. We've engaged in IGAs with all of the communities that have been approved by committee. Again, the committee had to approve the formal IGAs as well as the county board. To date, all of those have been approved, and we are now working with the communities on the specific projects and getting updates from them as they move forward. One of the things that is important to us, and also probably important to our grant reporting, is making sure we know the metrics of our projects and what we're doing. As you can see, if you're looking at this, and this may be cut off, I have a different screen view than everybody else has. Conveyance of these projects was quite important to us. And so having conveyance projects and stormwater flood control projects, getting that water out of the homes, out of the streets, was huge for us. And so seeing that most of the projects, both county, township, and municipal, were heavy on conveyance, definitely didn't upset us. You know, it's a lot of good things happening there. But also, it's important to us in our program and important things within our own ordinance and how we move forward is that most of these projects also have co-benefits of water quality improvements. And so not only are they improving moving water flow out of we'll say undesirable areas, but also improving the water that's in our streams and working our way through our system, which, as we all know, makes for a better community. And so we did put together this sheet of metrics to kind of show what our projects are doing and what they will do as they go forward. And hopefully when this is done, we can recalculate all of these metrics and maybe even have more quantifiable metrics once the projects are put in place. So I did want to highlight a couple of the projects that have been completed. This project was one of our first municipal reimbursement requests. This is right near us. This is in Carroll Stream. Carroll Stream had a couple different applications, and stream stabilization was a big focus of their applications. This is Klein Creek, and this project did score really well with our matrix, but also important to us, this project is also contiguous to one of our major flood control facilities. And so this is a great example of a community and the county working together on different minded initiatives, but all for the greater good of stormwater management in the county. I think this picture was taken last year. And so it probably does look a little different today as things are starting to grow in. But actually, I think it was taken a couple months ago, but as things are starting to grow in and green up, we're seeing some successes. And also this project is a great example of not only providing bank stabilization, but also rock riffles within the stream to help churn that water. So we don't have that typical classification of an urban stream, and that we are providing some of those water quality benefits in addition to erosion control in the streams. So another program area, another grant area that I definitely want to make sure I'm talking about, because this has been a huge success for us through the years, and it's something we want to keep in our program and feel that it's very important, is our Water Quality Improvement Grant Program. And one of the reasons this program is so important to us is that it's not only open to municipalities, but it's also open to businesses, schools, park districts, residents, HOAs. We've had a ton of different applications and successes with this program. It was initially developed in the year 2000. So it's been in place for 23 years, which is actually older than some of our own staff members that are working on the program now. But it's been in place for a long time. And to date, we've awarded over $6.3 million on these projects for over 100 projects that have been implemented countywide. So great successes. The big thing is that these projects are focused on water quality. And hopefully we're righting the wrongs of our past by having this funding toward water quality in our program. And you know, it's been so positive in that when we start to see implementation of these kind of projects, we also see the mindset starting to change. Especially when we're able to implement these projects at schools and other places. We reimburse up to 25% of eligible construction costs, so construction costs of the actual water quality initiatives. And you know, it's a great way for someone to get some help to add maybe native plantings or BMPs to an already designed project. So I wanted to showcase some of the things that we've done in our history within this program. Again, we've a ton of different applicants. Looking at green infrastructure, we have, you know, the Elmhurst Police Department that added a rain garden to help capture and clean their runoff and allow it to filter in instead of going straight to the streets. Obviously, permeable pavers have been huge in this program, and other green initiatives like bioswales. And I mentioned this before. Having things at schools and schools teaching about what these are. I believe both of these schools have received their water quality flags as well. And so they actually have an education component teaching the kids about what these BMPs are doing to clean the water is huge, because, you know, in 23 years, some of these kids who may have seen this go in when they were young now own their own homes and know to implement this and these practices into their own homes and at their businesses. Some other projects that we've had more public facing are things like detention pond retrofits. We had a great project with the city of Wooddale almost 10 years ago. We've done shoreline stabilization projects with different park districts, which is great because, you know, again, park districts have education programs, and it brings kids and adults to our resources like our watersheds, and provides that natural benefit where it kind of changes the mindset of having grass all the way up to the edge of the water and then having a stream from there. Having these different BMPs and water quality assets in our system, again, help change our mindset and change our ways moving forward. And our water quality improvement program just brought the last 2 IGAs to our committee and county board this month in May. And so we did have 9 projects that were funded for 2023. We announced those projects that were being funded in March. And Mary Beth Falsey, our water quality supervisor, was quick to reach out to the qualifying applicant or the qualifying projects and get those agreements in place so we can get those approved as quickly as possible, get that funding obligated, and move forward with the project. One of the things that we've been able to do on our website, and I do believe everyone will have this presentation emailed to them afterwards so they can use the clickable link under the Learn More, is that we do have a website where we showcase what we've done over the years as part of our Water Quality Improvement Grant Program. We expect fiscal year 2024 to be similar to 2023 in that we would announce the grant in October, close the grant in the winter, and then announce the winners at the March 2023 committee, or 2024 committee. I apologize for that. So lessons learned, because that's what's important for all of us, is what, you know, for the municipal people or other government people, what did we learn trying to go through this process? What could we improve upon? I'll say first and foremost, transparency was so important. Putting everything out there so everybody could see the same information was huge for us, in that we were making sure everybody was getting the same message and making sure no one was getting the wrong message. Because sometimes with an ever-changing grant process, there can be information that's not the most up to date. We did have a designated leader on this program to answer all the questions, update the FAQs, all of the emails and questions went through this person. And this person was also charged with reviewing what the federal government was putting out for ARPA funds to make sure that if there was a change to it, we are updating our process and making sure that, again, that was transparent and put out to our member or to our municipalities as well. Another big thing was to stick to the published grant funding packet. There were a lot of questions we would get. Hey, can you help us with this? Can you help us with that? We stuck to exactly what we published. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes there were hard no's that we had to say, and maybe awkward no's, but we did. And I feel like our program will have a huge success because of that. Assembling a review team of diverse backgrounds. A lot of people view our department or can view our department as pretty engineering heavy. I see us as split kind of right down the middle, and making sure that we take in all the different points of view on a project is hugely important, and also important in making sure we're getting those valuable co-benefits into our projects that we're talking about, bringing people to our aquatic systems, not just necessarily always putting them in pipes and getting them down the stream, down to Will County, so to speak. Or Cook County, I should say too, in the terms of Salt Creek. Working with other departments, again, we thought this was going to be a daunting task to create this online portal for people to apply through and get through, not knowing how great our professionals were in IT. We sent it to them. They basically developed the whole website and everything we needed within a week or two. And had everything set up so we could do a test submittal or two before the process opened. It gave us a whole new respect for our IT department, and it also helped our IT professionals understand what we do in stormwater by kind of working through this. So that was great, working with other departments that are at our resource, and then utilizing our existing resources. Again, shout out to Lake County SMC. Kurt and Sharon were incredibly valuable to us. Not just through sharing the stuff, but also bouncing ideas off of them, and thoughts and getting feedback. It was awesome, and really shows what a great region we have for stormwater management, and how we've been able to all work together to push our initiatives forward of quality stormwater management within Northeast Illinois. And lastly, not to forget, you have to defend your grant programs, your selections. So make sure you back your work up. An interesting thing that happened as soon as we closed our grant and announced basically our grant selections is that I do believe we were FOIA'd by an attorney that I believe was trying to find out if we were fair and how much we diverted from our grant process. And I'm really proud of our team and how we held it all together. Everything was documented. We put everything in one common folder, made sure we had that one point of contact. I would say it was interesting because, you never know how thorough someone's being, and making sure they don't fire off a quick email to someone that we work together with all the time. But of course, all our emails were part of that FOIA. And basically there was no conversations outside of the grant process about the project. And we had all of that backed up into a file folder to make sure we were ready for it. I will say that maybe we learned that through a previous grant program with HUD, and knowing that we were audited by the federal government, and learning what we learned from that process was good for us. That's why we're successful in our region, is that we try to learn and come back stronger. And that's exactly what we did. And so grateful to everyone who applied for our grants, everyone who continues to apply for our grants. all of our municipalities that we're working with to help get, we still estimate nearly $60 million of stormwater infrastructure in 5 years going into our county is incredible. That's more than the quarry if we're looking at it. And so it's a pretty fantastic feat that we're all doing between county funds and municipal funds, and helpfully making a more flood resistant and better ecological county, and just being stronger moving forward. And so that is the end of my presentation. And we can take any questions if there are any, Christopher.
All right. Hey, great job. Thank you, Sarah, for giving us that update. I did see a question here in the chat box. Let's see. Will there be a website where the public can see ARPA project information and metrics?
Mary Beth Falsey, huh? Sounds like Mary Beth Falsey has a new task on her hands of creating a website. No, in all honesty, yes, we are working on a website. We're working on a website, and it's kind of a grant reporting website with our finance department to make sure all of the ARPA programs, not just the ARPA stormwater program, is being reported to. For those of you who don't know, the county has just recently undergone a website change and a couple new database programs that we're working on. And as we work through this, we do expect there to be a website that we will obviously share with all of our municipalities and local communities so they can learn more about what we are doing countywide.
All right, very good. I'm not seeing any other questions. I don't know.
Great.
No, sir.
What, Chris? What, Chris?
Is there any chance that DuPage County as a whole may receive any additional ARPA funding?
I don't believe so. I have not heard anything about that. I think we still have ARPA allocations that haven't been obligated at the county that may be going towards different departments. I think there was a mention of this at a recent finance committee that the health department may still be looking at an initiative. And as we all know, the rescue plan kind of came on the backside of the CARES Act. And so a lot of it is a result of basically the whole COVID situation. And I can't speak to it too much because I'm not privy to everything that may be being done at the health department or other departments. But I do believe the funding that we do have remaining, they do believe will be allocated somewhat soon.
Okay. Very good. I am not seeing any other questions. Let me check here one more time.
Well, we hit the 45 minutes. That's what's required for a PDH, right?
we made it. We made it. All right. Well, if the audience does have any other questions that they think of, please email. You can get a hold of Sarah or get a hold of Raul, and he will forward those on, and we'll get you answers to any questions that you have. But I'm not seeing anything else, so I think we're going to give people a little time back in their day. Before we go, though, again, thank you, Sarah, for taking the time to give us this very thorough update on all of our ARPA program. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank our audience for joining us this afternoon. Was there any other thing else? Yeah, I do want to, let's see, remember that Raul will be emailing everyone with a link to the presentation, a recording of the webinar, and that ever so important PDH certificate. We are going to take a break next month, but our next scheduled webinar is scheduled for Thursday, July 13th at noon, where Kristen Comer from Greeley and Hansen will be presenting on utilizing design, treatment wetlands, and recirculation pumping stations to treat combined sewer overflows. So registration will probably be coming out, I think, next month in June. So look for that. We hope to see you there. That's it. That's all we have. So thank you very much and have a great day.